I'm like tired today, so.
Why are you so tired?
Because I had to be at work at the ass crack of dawn.
Why your place of business open up at the ass crack of dawn?
Because old people
Got you.
stand outside and wait.
They do?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Have you seen where I work?
Yes. I mean, not recently, but I'm familiar.
Well, I'm just saying, as a whole, it's borderline occult.
True. This is true. Okay, wait. We're supposed to be recording a podcast.
What's a podcast?
It's this little show we do. We get together and just talk about nonsense.
I don't do that. I don't know what y'all are talking
Why
about.
ain't nobody tell me my fly was undone?
Yes, you do. Come on, let's record a podcast.
I mean, we can give it a shot. I mean, I have no experience in this realm, so.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Get ready for unfiltered banter, laughs, and a barrel of fun. This is Monkeys Unfiltered.
Welcome to another episode of Monkeys Unfiltered, where the chatter is cheeky and the banter is bold. The stories we tell are worth their weight in gold. Grab your headphones, get comfy, and join the fun, because with Monkeys Unfiltered, the laughs have just begun. From monkey business to quirky news, we've got the scoop that'll chase away your blues. So sit back, relax, let the giggles unfold in this jungle of ours where the tales are retold. Whether you're here for the wisdom or a hilarious jest, Monkeys Unfiltered is simply the best. And today, folks, we've got a treat in store for you. We are going to be sharing our favorite podcasts with you. From true crime tales to comedy bits, these top listens are sure to be hits. Ta-da!
I do not like green eggs and ham, Sam I am.
I know. Well, I thought I would do something a little different since we are, venturing out. Like I said in the opening, I thought it would be fun since we record a podcast. We are all podcast consumers. I'd like to talk a little bit today about the podcasts that we listen to, some favorite episodes, why we listen to those podcasts, because I'm always looking for something new to listen to. So are you guys game for that?
Yeah, man.
Why not?
Perfect. Okay, so quick survey question. Jason, where do you listen to your podcast?
I'm usually on Spotify or on YouTube. I pay for YouTube Premium. One of the features of Premium is you can set a queue of videos to play. So I'll set 7 to play back to back to back as I work all day. So I'll just turn my screen off because, again, that's another feature of Premium. So I'll set all that up and I'll just turn the screen off and I'll not look at my phone for the rest of the day. And I'll just keep getting YouTube videos all day long.
I do something similar. Where do you listen, Hayden?
Mostly Spotify.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty much only Spotify. There's some on YouTube, but I used to do what Jason does and listen at work, but we're no longer allowed to have headphones in, so I've really slowed down on my consumption of episodes.
Oh, no.
I'm not allowed to have headphones either, by the way.
Well, see, I have a great boss. She doesn't care what I do, so I listen on Spotify too. Sorry, there's an ambulance going by.
Bird.
I listen.
Call that audio texture.
Yeah, audio texture. I listen on Spotify too, and I do listen while I'm at work because my boss is super dope.
You are your boss.
This is true. This is true. Hayden, did they abuse it at your job so now you can't have headphones?
No, it's actually a company-wide thing because there was an incident of someone not paying attention.
They fell in the baler and got squashed. That's why they have those signs now about please don't crawl on the baler.
Right.
I guess.
That's always the argument is you need to be fully aware. And I live in the Birmingham area, so there's been a lot of shootings and stuff. While employees have been in stores.
I'm sorry, what?
As a matter of fact, 2 employees of my company were shot recently.
Oh my gosh.
At a gas station or something. So it's definitely a safety.
Yeah, we were never allowed to have them, but they were super lax about it. As long as you have one ear available,
right.
To hear. Yeah.
Which be a grown up, you can do that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of a thing, right? When I used to run a lot and I would wear headphones, I would only do one ear so you could hear a car or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't keep me from falling in that hole and busting my knee open that day, though.
Well, like a lot of headphones nowadays, though, have like transparency mode, so you can still hear your environment.
That's no fun. I want to block it all out.
I know, but I'm saying in a
then you want ANC mode.
Well, so like these headphones that I use when we record, and I use these if I'm doing the edits. If I am deep in an edit and Papa Monkey comes home, I don't hear him. And he'll come into my office and scare the bejesus out of me. Yeah.
Well, especially because I don't know if you sit while you're editing, but you have that noise canceling like stuff behind you most of the time.
Yeah. But
yeah, because you're not in your normal setup right now.
I'm not. I'm at Jason's house, actually. I've been here for a few days, and I'm here for a few days longer. So yeah, this is not my normal studio area. But anyhow, I guess it seems to me like most people either listen on Spotify. I guess YouTube is a new way to consume podcasts, or it's new to me, I guess. I don't know.
It's not overly new. What I think is, so primarily you can find it on those like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's usually a video element that goes along with it. So it's just an alternate way of listening. I don't know if it's that new.
Makes sense. I mean, I like listening to the podcast because I like kind of like dreaming up in my head what people look like, but eventually I have to go find out, right?
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Video is available on Spotify for like any podcast that wants to do it, but not everybody does because that's like the point of a podcast.
Right.
You know, it's like mostly audio.
Well, talking about podcasts, we all know my favorite genre of TV viewing, movies, books, and podcast is true crime.
Yeah.
What are you two snickering at?
Genre.
There's no D in that word.
Shut up. You know what I'm saying. Genre. You two are boners. So there's no D in that word either, but you know what I'm saying.
So my wife really likes the true crime stuff as well. Mm-hmm. She usually will find like, I don't know, some TikTok person or a YouTube video of like a woman putting on her makeup and talking about true crime stories the whole time.
So there is someone who does that. Her name is Mackenzie. She's a licensed private investigator in the state of Florida. In fact, she lives across the state from me. And she now has a podcast called The Dating Detectives. And I drop in and listen to it sometimes. I like it when she tells the PI stories, but a lot of what they do is having guests on that tell their stories about either they were involved with a catfish or, you know, just something crazy in their relationship. So I listen to her sometimes. I enjoy her on TikTok because, yeah, she's usually putting on her makeup, which clearly I care nothing about. But she's definitely like very Southern. She uses all the Southern jargon, you know, like patootie and out here in front of God and everybody. You know, she uses all of those. And so I think that's really endeared her to the public because her podcast is apparently doing very well. It's called The Dating Detectives. But if we were really going to talk about my favorite genre style, my favorite style of podcasts. Does that make y'all feel better?
We just went on a roller coaster there.
It is the true crime, and all of the big TV shows, 2020 and all that, they take their televised episodes and they don't make any changes to them, and they just put them audio only. And those are fine, but I got hooked on one several years ago called Crime Junkies. Mm-hmm. And these two gals live in Indiana, and I think they've been friends since forever and ever, and it's their fascination too. And I think they started with this one podcast. Now they have a whole production company called Audio Junkie, or no, not Audio Junkie, Audio Chuck. That's right, because the one girl's dog's name is Chuck. But they do like all of the unsolved mysteries, or we're still looking for, or these true crime stories, or missing persons. And Crime Junkies is the original one that I listened to, but they have a couple of not really spinoffs of Crime Junkie, but different takes on the same topic. Like they do one called The Deck, and then they have got another girl that does one called Counterclock, I think. I like that one because the whole season, whether it's 8, 10, 12 episodes, is about one unsolved case, and she digs in and tells you all the details. But that's usually my go-to. This is one of the ones where I kind of like hear somebody's voice and have a picture in my head, because the girl who does the majority of the narrating, her name is Ashley Flowers. She has like a really distinctive voice. Like it's nice for podcast listing, right?
Yeah.
And I eventually had to break down and go see what she looked like. I mean, I wasn't shocked, but I did definitely have a different picture in my mind.
Well, so coming from a background of online gaming, especially when it started to get really popular, I made a lot of friends in the online space, but I had never seen these people in real life. So it was always an adventure to like get used to somebody's voice for so long, and then to eventually find out what they look like. It was always a wild ride. Because I'm the same way, Mom. Like you hear somebody and you create a mental image, and then when you finally see them, you're like, "Nuh-uh."
Right.
Like you're not real.
See, it's funny though, because all the podcasts I listen to are people who, like, everybody knows what they look like from other media.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
Like all the podcasts, because it's all like YouTubers and stuff that I listen to that have started podcasts.
Yeah, it's hard not to have seen Markiplier before.
Right. Or like Wendigoon.
It wasn't hard for me. It wasn't hard for me, but I think we kind of touched on this the other night, Hayden, like with another one of my favorite ones that I still listen to is Radio Lab. And that guy that hosts it, I will slaughter his name. So if you know how to say it, please say it.
Chad Abumrad.
Yeah. He just has such a cool, really like radio style voice.
Yeah.
And that's done by NPR. So I am quite certain those people have professional training to talk all cool and smooth. Like
Yeah.
he's one I was a little surprised.
Yeah. He looked nothing like I thought he would look at all.
I love their show. I love their show though. That's why I'm good at trivia. Their show.
Yeah.
What do you listen to, Hayden?
Well, like I said before, it's a lot of YouTubers that have podcasts. So I think I've mentioned this one once before. It's Distractible.
Yeah.
So it's Markiplier and his two best friends, Bob and Wade. To me, their style of podcast is what inspired this for me and wanting to do this with y'all. And the format that I kind of pushed for us.
Yeah.
Of the like 3 separate hosts on different occasions.
They're the ones that do
It's like a game show almost.
They play the game to find out who's going to host next. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It might not even be like a game. It's just a like discussion, but the host is always keeping track of points.
Right.
And whoever scores the most hosts the next episode.
They are extremely high energy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to understand the background they come from of like YouTube gaming and stuff like that.
And that's kind of the difference for me. Like Papa Monkey, don't tell anybody, but Papa Monkey snores really bad. I mean, really bad. Like sometimes the neighbors call and go, hey. So I sleep with nighttime earbuds in, and normally I pick a podcast or some soothing something. I'm into that music that goes from ear to ear now, like the sound effects.
Oh, the 8D or whatever it is. Yeah.
So I usually have something on, so I could never fall asleep to Distractible. In fact, the night I told you I gave him a listen to see what it was all about, that's what I put him on when I was getting ready to go to bed. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, we have to switch.
Yeah.
Their caffeine levels are infecting my
gosh,
heart, my brain.
They like her.
Yeah.
Hayden, do you listen to fantasy football podcasts at all?
Not really, just because like there's so many opinions in sports that I find it very hard to sit there and listen to a lot of them, because then everybody's got a different opinion, and it's like I'd rather just go out and read stuff on my own than listen to that kind of stuff.
Well, then I find myself arguing with them, but Papa Monkey listens to a lot of them, so sometimes I get in the car and I'm like, seriously, this guy is an idiot.
Yeah.
But that's another story. All right, Jason, what do you listen to?
So I've got a handful. There are a couple of podcasts that I check in on that I don't actually. It's not that I don't like the podcast. It's just I wouldn't call myself a fan of the podcast. I usually check in when they have someone or something that I care about.
Makes sense.
A good example of that is the Joe Rogan podcast. And so like, there's nothing really like special about what he does. He just has really smart people on, and then he talks to them, which I find to be actually quite refreshing. Because in a world where everyone's trying to be the smartest, or, you know, have the latest breaking news, or be, you know, this guy, or have the shtick or whatever, all it is, literally, and like this is a contract that, you know, everyone knows that he's signed a contract with Spotify, and like made the most amount of money doing podcasts of anyone ever. He just has people on who are smart, and he kind of controls the content. So all that he does is just invite people like he'll watch a documentary and he'll be like, I gotta have the person who made this documentary on my show. Or, you know, he used to be a comedian. Well, he's still technically a comedian. So sometimes he'll like have comedians on. They'll just talk about that. You know, he does MMA or, you know, commentates for the UFC. So he'll have fighters on. Like he just, whatever interests him or whatever piques his curiosity is who he has on. And now, Oldest Monkey has been a fan of the Joe Rogan podcast basically since its inception.
Forever.
Yeah, he's one of the pioneers in the podcast space, I would say. But yeah, generally, I only really check in when it's somebody I care about or like something I want to know more.
I always like when he has Neil deGrasse Tyson on.
Yeah, so I actually want to get around to those. I'm a latecomer, so it's only recently that I've started listening. So like I've done Elon Musk, Matt Rife, he had Jordan Peterson, he's had Ben Shapiro. I mean, all these different people. But like that's the only time I tune into that podcast, when it's somebody I recognize.
No.
Right. Yeah.
Like if he has on like a expert on lions, I don't know if I care too much about lions. You know?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Oldest Monkey, Prodigal Monkey, Wayward Monkey. He's got all kinds of names. He was supposed to be our guest today, but he was feeling under the weather. So we'll have him in the future.
We hope you feel better.
Yeah, we'll have him in the future.
I feel like it's kind of standard for people to have a like rotation of shows that they listen to.
Yeah, because I have several.
Like I think when I was doing research, like when we were starting this, trying to figure out what the hell we were doing, it seems that like
I'm not sure we still know.
Everybody has, I'm sure, listened to a podcast, but if you're like, this is your main form of like media consumption, everybody has about 5 or 6 podcasts on rotation that they listen to throughout a week.
Yeah.
Truly.
I could say that for sure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I used to listen to 3 podcasts from one company before it dissolved or got shut down, basically. And I mean, that's not even half the podcast that I listened to.
Yeah, well, that's like with Audio Chuck. They have several titles that I listen to, and I bounce around between them. It's funny you say that, Jason, about Joe Rogan, and like you only pop on when it's somebody you're interested in. I think I've mentioned this podcast before, too. And Jason Bateman, if you're listening, we'd like to have you be a guest. But I love their show, Smartless. It's him and Sean Hayes and... shoot, his name just went right out of my head. Batman. Lego Batman.
Lego Batman?
Mm-hmm. Was married to Amy Poehler.
Will Arnett.
Will Arnett.
Will Arnett.
So Smartless is Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett. And they do the same thing. They take turns being host, and they record in 3 separate locations. And so whoever the host is brings on a guest. And the way they open their show is... they give a little bio for the guest, and the other 2 have to try to guess who that guest is. That was hard to say. But I love them. And like I said, Jason, if you're listening, we have a microphone for you. But that is one that I admit, if they have a guest on that doesn't interest me, I'll skip that episode. Sorry.
Did you guys ever listen to the podcast that I forget what they called it, but it was like the 5 late night hosts got together over COVID?
Oh, yeah, no, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It was kind of cool, but my favorite late night host was always Conan, and he wasn't included in on that, so it was kind of like, because Jimmy Fallon is very much not my speed, and I don't really listen or watch any of the other ones, so...
I'm usually asleep by then because I'm an old lady.
Yeah,
I'm also an old lady.
So, right. So let me ask you guys a question. The podcast that you listen to, do you just know to go listen to it, or do you subscribe? How do you support your podcast? So
they always usually say, much like we do, like, you know, visit social media, rate us on Spotify or whatever. And I kind of feel bad sometimes because like I watch on YouTube, which is still like a view, it's still revenue, it's still a subscription, whatever. But they always push, check us out on Spotify and leave a rating. They hardly ever say, we're also on YouTube, give us a like, you know? I don't know if like I should be going over to Spotify and just giving a rating. And like you don't have to do it every time. You can just go rate the show. But like for whatever reason, I'm just like, I'll do it later. And then I just don't. So then I feel bad because like we make the same request of people and then like I don't do it for the ones that I enjoy.
I just go and I just hit the follow button on
Yeah.
Spotify, and then I wait until I'm open up my Spotify app and I see their name with a little blue circle next to it, meaning there's something new.
Right. And I'll admit, until we started doing this, that never crossed my mind. Following, subscribing, liking, commenting. I mean, and I work in the marketing space, but this is podcast promotion is not really what I do, right? I do scalability for e-commerce, but now all of the podcasts I listen to, even if I just listen to them once.
Yeah, because it's huge.
I give them like a little thumbs up just because everybody's just trying, right? And it means it's incredible the impact just that hitting the little like button has for a small podcast or like a podcast like us, and one that I listen to that is self-produced and self-funded. Like, we don't have big advertisers. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have any of that kind of stuff.
Well, and it's a thing you can do for free that has a big impact for the creator, and it helps them continue to give you what you enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps in the rankings to widen your audience. And then you get better analytics so that you're making sure you're delivering a show that is worthwhile to listen to. Because sometimes I feel like the BS we talk about is just the BS we talk about, right? A handful of other people are listening to it. And I think that's cool.
When it comes to my rotation of shows, me and Jason actually have a big overlap in two of the podcasts that we listen to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
Because he's actually the one that told me about them. Because, like I mentioned before, I used to listen to a bunch from one company, and then that company got shut down. A couple of them went independent, like the individual shows, but not all of them did. And so I asked him for some recommendations, and he told me about CreepCast and the Red Thread.
Yeah, I hear you guys talk about both of those a lot. We won't talk about my Red Thread faux pas.
I'm sure I can figure out how he got there, because he's a pretty big Wendigoon fan.
Yep.
And that's kind of the common connection between both of them.
I had heard of Moist Critical. So this is actually also how I found the official podcast.
Yeah.
I knew about Moist Critical. I didn't really watch much of his content or whatever. Then I started seeing Jackson Clark in both places. He's really smart and fun to listen to as well. He's got a nice Australian accent. Fun to listen to. And then Kaya, who's also on the official podcast, I don't know too much about. And then I'm sorry, but I can't even remember the other guy's name. It's mainly because when I listen, I just listen to the content. I'm not watching the video, right? And they don't often say each other's names. So the fact that Charlie and Jackson were on the official podcast and also on the Red Thread, that's kind of how I got listening to both of those. And then Wendigoon is the reason I found those two podcasts in the first place, because I have watched literally every YouTube video or every Wendigoon video that's on YouTube. I don't know why, but he just has such a captivating presence. Okay, so he makes a lot of weird mistakes and errors, and he misspeaks and stuff like that, but he's just so charming.
Does he say genre?
No, but he's just so charming, and he's an unapologetic Christian. A lot of his videos were Sunday school themed, so he actually would teach books of the Bible and stuff. There's a more current video, within the last 6 months, he did about just the book of Philemon, and so he called it the most underrated book of the Bible. He's breaking down this book of the Bible, and he's bursting into tears because he's considering how great it is that Paul would say something to the effect of, whatever this man has done to you, charge that to me, right? So Paul is writing and saying forgive this man because I have forgiven him, and Christ forgive me. So treat my forgiveness like Christ's forgiveness, kind of deal. And it's just so incredible to listen to.
Yeah.
CreepCast, I knew, again, a little about Meat Canyon or PapaMeat, however you would know him as. He's just a fun guy. I love voiceovers, and so he's really good at that. He's also an animator. He does fun stuff, and the two of them together, that's just a good dynamic.
Yeah. The thing with Meat Canyon, too, is, or PapaMeat, whatever, Hunter, is people might not know who he is, but if you're on the internet, you've at one point or another come across one of his cartoons in animation.
It's likely, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we showed you the Chick-fil-A
sauce. Is that the video y'all showed me the other night?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I know I'm old.
To the same degree, though, I wanted to recommend one to you, Jason, that
Okay.
I listen to on and off. It's similar, more similar to Red Thread, but it kind of has like CreepCast vibes to it as well.
Hmm.
They're longer episodes, like hours long. It's the Bigfoot Collectors Club,
Okay.
and they just investigate every known cryptid there is, pretty much. And they'll have on like experts and stuff like that.
Oh no, that's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's part of Wendigoon's appeal is he's obviously like one part of his name is Windy, which is like based on the Wendigo. Then the other part of his name, Goon, has an interesting meaning these days, but it's not what he was going for at the time. So Goon are just like, gooning was essentially, you'd put on
Being devious.
like night vision goggles and run around outside like a tactical, seal or whatever. So
Moron.
Okay, not at all what I was thinking.
yeah, gooning has a different meaning now, and people give him a little bit of grief over it now, but it's not what that meant at the time.
Yeah, now it's something gross and icky.
It is gross. If anyone knows what the term edging is, then it's similar.
So it sounds like you guys listen to more podcasts that are like, I don't want to say conspiracy theory, but like kind of pulling at the threads of
The Red Thread
Like
is
the red thread. So
totally conspiracy theory. And like it's literally named Red Thread because like think of the red threads that you connect the dots with on your wall.
I just see that picture of Charlie Day, just like
See, and my podcast consumption is a little different. I listen to the true crime, but I also like listening to things that are like odd
yeah.
or like what? So I listened to this little one, and these are really short. I don't think she does an episode over 20 minutes. And she's another one that is self-funded, self-produced, but she's been around for a while. I'm not convinced, and I hate saying this, her voice has such a tone about it that like she almost sounds AI, but I don't think she is. So it's called One Strange Thing. And they're just little short snippets, and she just tells these weird, strange stories that she finds in the news archives from all over the country. One of my favorite ones she ever told was like early on. And I think she started recording in like 2020, but it was about this, and I can't remember, somewhere in the middle of the country. It was a soda vending machine, but like not a Coke machine, not a Pepsi machine, just a soda vending machine. And this was like back in the 70s. You didn't know what you were getting, right?
It was just random.
There were no pictures on the buttons. You just pushed a button and got a random soda. And there were no records in the little town where it was who owned the machine. No one was ever seen servicing it, collecting money out of it, nothing. And it was just like at a bus station or something on the corner. And then every 10 years, something changes with it, right? Then it went into the 80s, and you could get a Pepsi, a Coke, or Surprise Me. And Surprise Me would be like, one of the surprises that somebody got was a Hubba Bubba flavored Diet Cola.
Alrighty.
I'm like, excuse me? Then it changed again like in the 90s, and now there were no choices. All of the buttons were Surprise Me. We don't take coins now, just dollars. But then in 2019...
This sounds like a creepypasta.
It disappeared. Right. So the machine just disappeared. But then it popped up on Facebook with a Facebook page because it had such a fan following. Then 2020 hit and all of that stuff hit. And so the soda machine would come on Facebook and write these posts about like, I want to come home, but I don't want you to touch me because that's scary, because it was all about coping through COVID.
Yeah.
Right. So that was just a cute little story. And she's told some other ones. Some of them I just go,
wait, was it like
what?
Based on fact or like she made it all up?
No, it's fact. She finds news articles, like she scours the AP, different news archives, and just finds all these weird oddity stories, and then does her own little research and then just tells you the story.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a creepypasta, but it reminds me too of, you remember the dinosaur on Southside Boulevard that they were going to take it down, and it had its own
Yes.
Facebook page. This is in Jacksonville.
Yes.
It had its own Facebook page because they wanted to save it, and now it's become like a staple. Yeah, they built something totally different there, but specifically kept the dinosaur in place.
It's like a historical monument now.
Yeah.
But the dinosaur remains. It was when I was a kid, it was miniature golf. And now it's a shopping center, but the dinosaur stays, and he's got like a fence around him. I think you can get arrested if you mess with him.
Yeah, he's like a protected thing now.
Yeah.
Man.
But then I listened to another one, and I think one of you guys I was telling, this is another one that just does short episodes, but it's called Radio Rentals. And so the theory is that the host is the owner of a video rental store. So when the episode starts, like you come into the video store, you hear the little doorbell or, the little ding ding or the bell when you open the door, and he greets you and talks to you. And then he's like, oh, here, let me pop in a tape. And when he pops in the tape, it's the actual person whose story it is telling you their story. And it's usually creepy stuff, like somebody following somebody or what?
Because like I've heard so many like ARGs and creepypastas that sound like what you're describing.
If you like that, you would definitely like CreepCast.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I should check it out then. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I listen to.
Because it's creepypastas. Some of them are,
I recommend to start with, do the left-right game.
Yes.
It's their best episode, I think. So they have a lot of fun on certain
Okay.
other episodes, but I think that is the best story they've covered thus far.
So that's like Radio Rental. If you go check it out, go way back to the beginning. I think it's like episode 14, Laura of the Woods.
Okay.
Left Right Game is definitely one of my favorite episodes from them.
Yeah.
They do one pretty early on in their series they called Baraska. All I'm saying is prepare yourself when you get into that one.
See, Baraska for me was more of a like shock value, but like Left Right Game is just terrifying. Ted the Caver's just terrifying. Here's the thing, Ted the Caver doesn't even have a monster. It's just a feeling of dread. And like sometimes the feeling is more compelling than an actual monster.
Oh God, yes.
I don't usually like physically like feel a certain way after just listening to something, like watching a movie or something like that. Like in Endgame, spoiler, when Tony Stark dies, like I cried, because I grew up with that character.
Me too, I cried.
Like I grew up with that character as a kid, and it's like that was a lot of my childhood. But like Baraska physically made me feel ill.
Yeah.
Like at work, I was like, I need to sit down for a moment.
Oh, okay.
Here's my favorite reason why they because they covered Baraska. Here's my favorite thing that came out of that is they now insert Kyle into every other story somehow.
God, now I got to check it out. Hey, do either of you guys listen to Monkeys Unfiltered?
What is that?
No, never, not once.
Sounds stupid. So there are other things, and here's another one where I kind of tune in when they have someone I care about. Like they've had Wendigoon on a couple of times. They've had on the Lord Lodge, which I really enjoy. It's a good YouTube channel. And then they've had on Meat Canyon, and then like some other people. But it's a group that are really, really, really close knit, and they have a really good following, a good setup. They have a lot of fun. And here's the thing: as much as they laugh, you can't help but laugh along with them, even if what they're saying isn't all that funny. Them laughing is also funny, right? So it's called the Unsubscribe Podcast. It's got Brandon Herrera, Donut Operator, the Fat Electrician, and then
I'm sorry, did you say Donut Operator?
Yep.
Yeah, and then Eli Double Tap.
Yep.
So these
are all dudes who live in Texas and are just dudes.
Yeah. So Brandon Herrera, interestingly enough, is currently in a Senate run, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think most of them are former military or police.
They are.
Yeah. I know Donut Operator is.
Donut is a former police officer. I think Brandon is the only one that actually hasn't served.
Oh, how funny.
I think he said that on an episode recently.
Hey, that thing that you turned me on to the other day that I listened to, and I was like, oh, I'll listen to it when I'm falling asleep. And you're like, oh, you're not going to. What was it called?
The Edge of Sleep.
Right. So is that like I finished it. So is there more to that,
So-
or is that just like a one-off thing?
It came out in 2019, and that was another Markiplier project. They were supposedly like there's a season 2 coming. Like it was only 8 parts, and there's supposed to be a season 2, and then that first part is also supposed to be a TV show at some point. But I guess when COVID hit, it got kind of pushed, and I don't know what's happening with it now. Like I couldn't find any news.
Oh.
I could be mistaken. I could be dumb and just completely have missed it, but I don't know.
Well, I looked to see if there was a season 2, and I couldn't find it because it just is kind of hanging.
Yeah, what'd you think of it?
I liked it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I will say this, after dropping into Distractible, that's where he's from, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so after dropping into Distractible and watching them and then listening to his voice, and so I'm old and slow, right? I didn't know that like he has a podcast name and then like a real name his parents gave him.
Mark Fishbuck.
And they kept calling him by his real name his parents gave him. Yes, when they're introducing the show. And I'm like, well, where is the dude?
Yeah. Because
his voice sounds totally different to me.
He does so much, and like he is finishing up making a full length movie for the first time. And he does a lot of stuff in that space, just creation wise. He's really talented at a lot of it.
Yeah, he's got a cool voice.
I'm not going to say acting is his strongest part, but he definitely has the creative mind for it. He has 2 YouTube series. One of them is significantly higher like quality and production because of the budget behind it. But one of them is, the first one was a heist with Markiplier, and the other one is In Space with Markiplier. And it's a series of videos that at the end you get to choose. You get 2 choices and you click the next video. Heist, you can get like 60 different endings. It might not be that much. It's really good. And then In Space, you can eternally loop that every single time, but they filmed it in such a way that each universe you enter, there is something slightly different. It'll make you think you're back at the beginning when you're not.
Oh,
It's mind-boggling the amount of work and thought that went into it.
that sounds really cool.
It's so cool. Like I sat here when he first put it out there, I sat here for 4 hours one night just clicking through videos. And they're only like the longest one is maybe 15 minutes.
That's what I like about the gal who reads the crazy stories.
Yeah.
The One Strange Thing. I think the longest episode I've ever listened to is 20 minutes.
It's just like that branching, like
Yeah.
every choice leads you to a completely different area, but you can also converge back at some point.
Yeah.
So, Hayden, I'm not sure if you've heard of this one, but I recently have grown to enjoy. So, okay, there's like a whole trajectory here. I somehow found, well, here's what it was. Wendigoon was featured on an episode of Some Ordinary Podcast, which is Nuxanor, or aka Nux Taco. I think he took down his original channel or stopped posting on it because he got canceled at one point.
Fun.
So there's Nuxanor, yeah, Mudahar,
Usually get canceled.
and
Right?
and then Hayden, I know you know Oompaville.
Yeah.
So the 3 of them, I actually enjoy Nuxanor's content on his own. He's a big reaction guy. And then Oompaville is somewhat of a gun tuber, I think, right?
Yeah.
A what?
Gun tuber.
So they call them gun tubers, people whose primary focus on their channel is like guns and the discussion of guns and that sort of thing.
Just look up Demolition Ranch if you want to know
Oh.
the definition of a gun tuber.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about that right before we went live just now because apparently he made a 5-minute video, Demolition Ranch did, saying that Donald Trump's attempted assassin had on his merch.
Yeah.
So I've not really listened to a whole lot of Mudahar stuff, but what I will say, and this is really irrelevant, but he sounds a lot like the old voice from the comedy channel. Oh God, what was that comedy channel? What was it called? It was on like old cable.
There's so many shows on the Comedy Channel. back then.
Yeah, I know. Comedy Central.
Oh.
So there was a guy who would do voiceovers, like you would announce the next show or whatever, just for the channel.
Oh,
His
yeah.
voice sounds exactly like that, and I can't get over it. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But that podcast is fun. They talk over each other quite a bit, but like not.
What?
Oh,
What do
we
you-
don't know
what are you
anything
talking
about
about?
that.
Yeah.
What?
I'm
Hello?
sorry. Hello? What? Hello, is this thing on?
It's not in a totally annoying way. Hint, hint. But I don't think there's any more that I like either frequent or even really know about, for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, I have a handful, and then sometimes I'll get burnt out on one and I'll leave it for a few months and get on to something else, and then I go back.
I really only have one more that I listen to whenever they drop a new episode because it's my favorite. It's called Tales from the Stinky Dragon.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's a live play. Like, it's not live, but like they are actively playing D&D.
Oh, Hayden, how do you feel about Critical Role?
I mean, I like Critical Role too. There's so much in that it's hard to jump into it, especially if you don't know any of the people. Like, I only know Matt Mercer.
Right. I love Matt Mercer as a voice actor.
Yeah. But no, Tales from the Stinky Dragon, it's D&D, but like they do it and present it in such a way that like they're not actually playing with a board in front of them, so they're not tempted to go like, oh, I want to move here. Like, they physically will have to say everything they're going to do and describe it to you in detail.
As you should.
Also, for the NPCs like that aren't the actual players and that the DM voices, they get voice actors to come in and play them, so they feel like real characters in the show.
Yeah. I'm a real sucker for voice acting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Cool.
They used to be a part of a big production company called Rooster Teeth, and they got shut down and have eventually taken this to be an independent thing. So they've kind of cut back on a lot of the voice acting because they don't have the same kind of resources behind them.
It's fair.
It's not even like, oh, characters just don't have voices anymore. They've just eliminated having like 14 NPCs. Now there's only like 3.
Yeah.
You know what other podcasts don't have that this podcast does have?
What's that?
Monkey Mischief.
Oh.
Ooh.
Y'all know this is my favorite part of the show.
No way.
I wanted to get us here before I got the evil eye from Hayden that, hey, we got time. And so for anyone who's new here, doesn't know what we're talking about, on Mondays, we drop the beginning of a dad joke on our Facebook or our social media channels. And we give you Monday, Tuesday to drop your guess in the comments. And I believe, well, it'll be several weeks removed now, but we had someone correctly guess one of the jokes several weeks ago. So I was super excited about that. So when you're trolling through social media, well, not trolling, scrolling. When you're scrolling through social media, be sure you drop by the Monkeys page on Mondays to check out the first part of the dad joke, and then come join us here on Wednesday where you get the punchline. If you lobby a guess, we will definitely give you a shout out on air if you get it correctly. But if you ran through this week, you saw I posted, what do you call a dead pepper?
Ghost pepper?
Yeah!
Ah!
It's really sad how excited I get over dad jokes.
No, it's perfectly fine and understandable. Dad jokes are the best thing in the world.
They are the best thing in the world. And if you think that you have a dad joke that is suitable for us to voice on air, you can visit us at www.monkeysunfiltered.com. There is a submission form near the bottom of the page where you can send us that joke. And if we do voice it on air, we are going to send you the most cool, one of a kind, can't believe you own it, Monkeys Unfiltered sticker. Yay! with your new studio setup there, Hayden, it's a little hard to slide all the way across the room, huh?
It sure is.
Yeah, well, you did a good job, though.
Wait, I could do this. Sticker! I literally got it and ran all the way around my desk to the other side of the room.
Right. Nice job. You're such a dork. Oh, and just so you know, I'm fully expecting the next time you host to be welcomed as a spoon.
That's right. We forgot to do that.
Yeah. Ahoy, me spoons.
Ahoy, spoons.
Ahoy, spoons.
Avast ye race cars.
Okay, on that note, thank you guys for hanging out today. If you don't mind, you heard us go on ad nauseum about this. Please find us in social media, find us wherever you get your podcast, give us a like, a follow, rate our show. It would mean so much to us to just know that you are out there listening and you are supporting what we are doing.
Yeah, and let us know if you care for any of the recommendations we've made. These are some of the things that we enjoy and that got us to where we are, kind of in this mindset to do our own podcast. So
For sure.
just let us know if you care for any of those.
Okay, monkeys. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hayden, you're a boner.
She got kicked out for having the zoomies.
I hate when I get kicked out for having the zoomies.
Yeah, it's a tragedy.